Before we begin, let yourself settle in. Find a comfortable position. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breathing slow. There's nothing you need to do right now. No tasks, no worries, just the sound of a slow story unfolding. Tonight, we'll travel to a quiet place in the past. To ancient Egypt, before the pharaohs stir, before the market opens, before the heat begins to rise. Just a river, a village, and the soft light of morning. Let's begin. The night is still holding on when the first hint of light appears. The Nile lies silent, dark and wide, reflecting a sky that's beginning to change. The water doesn't rush. It moves like breath, steady, smooth, and unbothered. On its banks, reeds sway in the breeze, and a lone heron steps carefully into the shallows. It makes no sound. It doesn't need to. Palm trees rise in stillness, their tall trunks casting the faintest shadows on the ground. The air is cool and damp, filled with the scent of mud, water, and distant fires that have long since gone out. Then, a shape appears on the river, a boat. Long, narrow, and carved from wood worn smooth by time. A fisherman stands at the back, guiding it with one oar. His movements are slow, almost part of the river itself. He wears a loose linen tunic, slightly damp with mist. He says nothing. He said nothing for years on mornings like this. His basket is empty for now, but he's not in a hurry. He knows the river gives when it's ready. Not far from the shore, a village begins to stir. The homes are made of mudbrick, square and simple, with flat roofs where families sometimes sleep to catch the breeze. This morning, most are still inside, but the light is changing. A door opens. A woman steps out carrying a tall clay jar on her shoulder. She walks slowly, barefoot across the packed earth, her braided hair swinging behind her. She's on her way to the river, as she is every morning. She hums a tune, not for anyone in particular, just for herself, just to begin the day. Behind her, a child's voice calls out. A quiet laugh, then the soft patter of small feet across stone. A goat bleats. A broom brushes dust from a doorway. Smoke begins to rise from small fires as flatbread is pressed and placed onto hot stones. The air fills with warmth, not from the sun yet, but from home, and wood, and breakfast. The light now touches every rooftop, bathing the village in soft gold. The river glimmers. The fisherman has nearly disappeared down the bend. His boat grows smaller until it's just a shadow on water. This is dawn in ancient Egypt. Quiet, familiar, timeless. The kind of morning that's happened for thousands of years, and always in the same way. No rush, no sound louder than birdsong or laughter. Just the Nile, the light, and the beginning of another simple, steady day. The sun is now rising. Its light reaches farther into the village, sliding down walls, warming doorways, casting soft shadows across the packed dirt. The rooftops glow gently, touched by gold. The night is fully gone, and the day begins without rush. Inside the mud-brick homes, families move through small routines. Quiet, practiced movements. A woman kneels beside a grinding stone, turning grain into flour with a slow, steady rhythm. Her hands are strong but careful. The stone surface is smooth from years of use, and the sound it makes, soft and sandy, blends with the morning breeze. A small boy stirs nearby. He wraps his arms around his knees, blinking at the light pouring through a high window. A warm loaf is already baking on a flat clay plate beside the fire. The scent drifts through the room, simple, rich, familiar. He smiles and lies back down for a little while longer. Outside, the village stretches. A man ties bundles of rushes together for roofing repairs. He pauses often to look up at the sky, not because he's distracted, but because that's part of the rhythm here. To work a little, then breathe, to listen, to be still for a moment before moving again. A young girl walks carefully along a low wall, balancing a shallow basket on her head. Inside are figs, wrapped in cloth. She moves with the ease of someone who's done this every morning since she could walk. She doesn't drop a single one. 2 goats bleat from the corner of a small courtyard. A boy opens the gate and guides them toward the edge of the village, tapping their sides with a reed. He whistles softly. Not a tune, just a sound to fill the space. The goats follow without protest, their hooves clicking gently on stone. At the well, 3 women gather, each with a jug resting at her feet. One hums, one laughs, and the third doesn't speak at all. They aren't in a hurry. The jugs will fill when the rope is drawn, and not a moment sooner. Someone begins sweeping the main path, not because it's dirty, but because sweeping is part of the day. It prepares the space. It sets the tone. It makes room for what's to come. A donkey brays. Chickens cluck. A door creaks open and then gently closes again. And in every courtyard, smoke continues to rise from morning fires, thin lines of white twisting into the sky, as if the village itself is stretching and waking after a long sleep. There is no alarm, no signal, no shouted command. Just the slow unfolding of habit. The world here doesn't demand speed. It rewards steadiness. Every small task, from lighting a fire to placing a jug to shaping a loaf, is part of a much bigger rhythm, one that stretches back thousands of years. And so, the village awakens, not with noise, not with urgency, but with quiet intention, with softness, with calm. By now, the sun is fully above the horizon. Its light has softened, no longer golden, but warm and steady. Shadows grow shorter. The air is still cool, but it carries the promise of heat, the kind that will rise slowly from the earth and settle in the shoulders by midday. Beyond the village, the farmland stretches along the river, dark, damp, and fertile. This is the Kemet, the Black Land, soil left behind by the Nile's yearly flood, so rich it crumbles between the fingers like ground cinnamon. For centuries, this land has given life to those who care for it. And now, it calls for another day of tending. A man walks the edge of his field. His linen robe is tied loosely at the waist, and a wide reed hat shades his eyes. His feet are bare, already coated in a thin layer of mud. He carries a wooden hoe across his shoulder and hums a slow tune as he walks. A tune he learned from his father, who likely learned it from his father too. There is no rush. The rows of barley do not move quickly. The fig trees do not bloom overnight. The Nile flows at its own pace, and the farmers have learned to match it. He kneels beside a small irrigation channel, adjusting a few stones to redirect the water. The channel is part of a much larger network, narrow trenches carved through the fields by hand, drawing water from the river to the plants. He checks the flow, waits for a moment, then nods. It's working well enough. In the distance, another farmer operates a shaduf, a simple device of wood and rope, with a counterweight on one end and a bucket on the other. He lowers it into the water, lifts it carefully, and pours the contents into a higher channel. Then again, and again. The rhythm is slow and familiar, like a quiet chant. Nearby, a pair of oxen stand patiently beneath a sycamore tree, swatting flies with their tails. One wears a faded cloth across its back, the other a simple rope harness. They wait to pull the wooden plough that sits resting on a patch of dry grass. When the farmer approaches, he strokes one of their necks gently before fastening the yoke. He does not speak to them, but they understand. When he walks forward, they follow, dragging the plough through the soft earth. The blade doesn't dig deep, just enough to turn the soil, to loosen it for planting. Dust rises in small clouds, glowing in the sunlight. Birds follow behind, pecking at insects stirred from the dirt. The only sounds are the creak of wood, the quiet snort of oxen, and the rustle of wind through barley. Elsewhere, a group of workers gather around a fig tree. The branches hang low, heavy with fruit. One man climbs the trunk, careful not to break the limbs, while two others spread a linen cloth on the ground. The figs drop gently, one by one, with soft thumps. A few are split open, revealing rich pink insides. A young boy picks one up and eats it slowly, savouring each bite. Laughter bubbles up, but it fades quickly. There's no shouting, no urgency. The tree gives what it gives. There's no need to hurry it. On the edge of the field, near the canal, a woman and her daughter gather reeds. They cut them close to the base with curved knives and lay them in bundles across a flat stone. Later, the reeds will be dried and woven into mats, baskets, maybe even a new roof for one of the houses. The daughter places one reed gently behind her ear like a flower. Her mother smiles, but says nothing. Not far away, a group of ducks waddles through the shallow water, dipping their beaks into the mud. Their soft quacking adds a lightness to the morning, like a song with no words. Around mid-morning, the farmer takes a break. He wipes his forehead with a cloth and sits beneath a tamarisk tree. He unwraps a small cloth bundle. Inside are dates, flatbread, and a wedge of soft cheese wrapped in fig leaves. He eats slowly, watching the wind move across the field, rippling the grain like a sleeping breath. Beside him, the oxen rest in the shade, eyes half closed. One of them chews lazily, unconcerned with time. There's no rush. The Nile has always given what it can. The land has always asked only for patience, rhythm, and care. It's a quiet exchange, an ancient agreement. And here, under the warming sun, with hands stained by soil and breath slowed by the breeze, the farmer finds peace in the repetition. The work continues, but for a moment, everything is still. Not all work in ancient Egypt happens under the sun. In a shaded corner of the village, away from the animals and fields, there is a smaller building, plain from the outside, but quiet, solid, and cool. Inside, the light filters through a narrow window slit, illuminating a space filled with scrolls, pots of ink, and the faint scent of papyrus. This is the scribe's office. The door creaks softly as it opens. The air inside is still and dry, with a hint of dust, chalk, and old wood. Against the walls, shelves hold rolled scrolls and stacks of tablets. A smooth stone desk stands in the centre, its surface gently worn from years of writing. The scribe is already here. He sits cross-legged on a low mat, a reed brush in one hand and a sheet of fresh papyrus in the other. His robe is simple and clean, tied neatly at the waist. His hands are steady, his posture relaxed. He has done this every morning for as long as he can remember. Writing in this world is a quiet kind of power. It holds memory. It organizes offerings. It records births and land boundaries, temple goods and royal decrees. But to the scribe, it's also an art, a peaceful rhythm of line, symbol, and breath. He dips the brush into a small jar of black ink made from soot and gum. The ink is thick and dark, with a slow drag as it moves across the page. With each stroke, hieroglyphs begin to take shape. Tiny pictures of birds, eyes, hands, and boats, carefully aligned in rows. He pauses often, not to rest, but to think. Every mark must be correct. A single misdrawn symbol can change the meaning of a sentence. But he's not nervous. He simply works slowly, thoughtfully, as if each line is a soft conversation with the page. Outside, the world hums. Goats bleating, children playing, a distant laugh. But in here, everything is hushed. Even the birds outside the window seem to quiet as the scribe works. On a nearby table, a basket holds bits of broken pottery, old shards, reused as practice slates. This is where apprentices learn. Not today, though. Today, the scribe is alone. He enjoys these hours, long stretches of silence, where the only movement is his hand, and the only sound is the soft scratching of reed against fibre. Next to the ink pot is another jar, this one red. Red ink is used for headings, names, and beginnings. It feels different, lighter, more deliberate. The scribe switches brushes and adds a title to the top of the page. A record of grain delivered from 3 farms on the eastern bank. He writes slowly. He's not just recording information, he's preserving it. What he writes today might be read again next season, next year, or even by a temple official in a city he's never seen. His fingers are stained with ink. His brush moves with practiced grace. Each new line brings a small satisfaction. On the shelf behind him are scrolls rolled tightly and tied with twine. Each one contains names, measurements, lists, prayers. One scroll, older than the rest, tells the story of a journey to Thebes. Another records a marriage agreement signed in front of temple witnesses. Another is a copy of a hymn to the sun. The scribe sometimes reads them aloud when no one is listening, not for meaning but for sound, the way the words roll together, the quiet authority they hold. He believes that writing, like music, like breath, has a life of its own. At midday, the light shifts. A beam of sun stretches across the floor, illuminating a patch of stone worn smooth from years of footsteps. The scribe sets down his brush and leans back, letting his hands rest in his lap. He closes his eyes for a moment and listens to the silence, to his heartbeat, to the faint rustle of papyrus curling in the warm air. This work is not loud and it is not fast, but it is steady. And it matters. The scribe reaches for a fresh sheet and begins again. By midday, the pace of the village begins to slow. The sun hangs high overhead now, casting short, sharp shadows on the earth. The golden light of morning has turned white and strong. Where there was movement, there is now stillness. The breeze that rustled the barley has quieted, and the air presses gently on rooftops, courtyards and skin. This is the time of rest. Along the narrow streets of the village, many doors are closed. Inside, families retreat into the coolness of shaded rooms. A boy lies stretched out on a woven mat, his hand resting on the belly of a sleeping cat. The fire in the cooking hearth is low. Bread has been eaten. Water jars are half empty. No one speaks. Even the animals sense the shift. Goats have curled into the shadow of walls. Birds perch in fig trees, their feathers puffed in the heat. A dog sleeps beside a clay wall, its ears twitching slightly in a dream. Only a few souls are still moving, and most of them are headed in the same direction, toward the temple. The temple rises at the edge of the village, its entrance guarded by tall, symmetrical columns carved with lotus flowers and papyrus stalks. The walls are pale limestone, warm to the touch and glowing in the midday sun. Long rows of symbols run across every surface, prayers etched in stone, repeating the names of gods and kings. As you approach, the world seems to change. It is cooler here, quieter. The thick walls and high ceilings hold the shade like water in a jar. The scent of incense lingers in the air. sweet and smoky, made from myrrh, frankincense, and other resins offered to the gods. Inside, the light filters down in narrow beams through high slits and open courtyards. It moves across the floor slowly, illuminating particles of dust that seem to hang suspended, unmoving. Footsteps echo here, even soft ones. A priest moves silently between two columns, his linen robe brushing against the stone. He carries a small tray, a cup of oil, a bundle of herbs, and a carved offering bowl. He sets them down at the base of a statue, not with ceremony, but with calm precision. He bows his head and whispers a line from memory, then another. The gods do not rush. Behind the main sanctuary, in a narrow chamber lined with painted walls, another scribe, older, slower, copies prayers onto a sheet of papyrus. His writing is smaller than the village scribes, more formal. These are not grain records or trade accounts. These are words meant to last forever. He does not look up when someone passes. His hand moves steadily, line by line. The walls around him tell stories. The journey of Ra through the underworld, the weighing of the heart, the offerings made to Osiris. The paint is cracked in places, faded in others, but still vibrant enough to feel alive. A blue more like lapis than sky, a red that holds the warmth of fire. Further down the hall, a small courtyard opens to the sky. In its centre sits a pool, shallow and still. Flowers float on the surface. A single bee lands and drinks. The hum of the village is distant here, almost imagined. A mother and daughter enter the courtyard quietly. The girl looks around, eyes wide. Her bare feet patter softly on the stone floor. She stops to watch the light move across the water, fascinated by how it glows. They don't speak. They simply sit on the edge of the basin, fingers trailing in the pool, letting the cool silence soak into their bones. This is not a place of loud worship or ceremony. Not today. It is a place of pause, of breath, of stillness. Outside, the heat continues to rise, but here, inside the temple walls, time has slowed. The stone is cool, the air is still, and the gods, as always, are listening. As the sun begins its slow descent from the peak of the sky, the village gently stirs back to life. The long stillness of midday gives way to quiet footsteps, low voices, and the soft clatter of goods being gathered and wrapped. It's time for the market. There is no bell, no official opening, just a steady, familiar rhythm passed down through generations. Along the main path that curves through the village, shaded stalls are being prepared. Simple wooden frames covered with woven reed mats. Cloths are spread out on packed earth. Baskets are lined up in rows, and clay jars are arranged so their painted surfaces catch the light. One by one, villagers begin to arrive. A woman carries a bundle of linen over her shoulder, dyed pale blue with indigo. A boy rolls a cart filled with dried fish, the salty scent trailing behind him. An old man places tiny copper tools on a mat, polished until they shine like drops of sunlight. No one is in a hurry. The market is not a place for rushing. It's a place for movement and pause, for greetings, conversations, quiet observations. People stop often, not to buy, but to speak, to share the news of the day, to trade not just goods, but stories. The air is warm, but no longer heavy. A breeze lifts from the river, winding between stalls and brushing against hanging fabrics. The scent of spice mixes with clay and sweat and something sweet. Dates, perhaps, or honey cakes brought in from a nearby village. At the far end of the path, near the shade of two tall sycamore trees, a potter sits behind his goods. His fingers are stained with reddish clay, and a line of jars rests before him. each shaped by hand, each slightly different. Some are small enough to fit in a palm, others large enough to carry a week's worth of water. He speaks little. He doesn't need to. His work speaks for him. A group of children runs past, barefoot, laughing, each holding a fig. They weave between legs and baskets like birds in flight. An older woman, selling onions from a low basket, pretends to scold them, waving a stalk of garlic in the air, but she smiles as she does it. Bartering is soft, not sharp. A woman kneels beside a pile of woven sandals, examining the stitching. The seller watches patiently. When the woman lifts a pair, he quotes a price, not too high, not too low. They speak quietly, adjusting the trade with calm nods. A small jar of oil is added, a handful of lentils. A trade is made. Both are content. Nearby, a musician tunes a simple stringed instrument, then begins to play. The notes are slow, almost meditative, rising and falling like the curve of the river. He sings, too, in a voice low and worn. People don't applaud. They simply listen, and the music blends into the rhythm of the market. Toward the center of the stalls, a scribe stands beneath a shaded awning, offering his services to those who need names written, letters copied, or transactions recorded. He writes on small shards of pottery, using black ink made from ground soot and water. His brush moves quickly, but never hurriedly. He writes down a land agreement, a list of goods for transport, a short love poem whispered by a girl who waits nearby, too shy to speak it aloud. The village doesn't run on coin alone. It runs on memory, on agreement, on trust. And the scribe is here to help hold it all in place. As the day wears on, shadows grow longer. The crowd thins slightly, but no one seems eager to leave. The heat has passed. The sky is turning soft again, that pale, sleepy blue that arrives before dusk. A final handful of salt changes hands. A clay cup is exchanged for a thread of linen. A smile is given freely and returned just the same. The marketplace begins to wind down. Baskets are lifted. Stalls are folded. Footsteps lead back toward home. And still, the music lingers. Faint. Steady. Like breath. Like something older than the village. Older even than the river. The sky begins to change once more. The sharp brightness of afternoon has faded, replaced by a soft, copper-colored light that slips gently across the land. Long shadows stretch across courtyards and rooftops. The edges of the palm trees are rimmed with gold. The day is winding down, and with it comes a quiet shift in the village's rhythm. The marketplace is mostly empty now. Stalls have been folded, baskets lifted and carried away, clay jars packed back into carts. The music has faded. The chatter has softened. What's left behind is a feeling, one of warmth, of calm, of something finished. Families return home. Along the narrow path between homes, bare feet shuffle on the packed earth. A mother balances a jug on her hip. A boy walks behind her, dragging a long reed stick behind him, drawing lines in the dust. They speak little, but they move together, comfortable in the space they know so well. Inside the homes, small fires are lit again, not for heat, but for cooking. The scent of onions sizzling in oil rises from an open doorway. Bread is warmed, lentils stirred in clay pots, herbs ground between fingers and sprinkled with care. The work is not loud or hurried. It's steady, practiced, part of the day's closing steps. In one courtyard, a woman kneels beside a shallow basin, rinsing clothes in cool water. The fabric darkens as it soaks, then lightens again as she lifts it into the air and wrings it out with practiced hands. Her daughter helps, folding the linens into a neat stack beside them. They speak quietly, Not about anything urgent, just small things. Who visited today, what the neighbour's goat did, how many eggs the chickens laid. A few homes over, an old man sharpens a tool, slowly, with care, the way his father taught him. A grinding stone rests in his lap. Each stroke is even, each pause filled with memory. Beside him, a small dog watches the fading light, ears flicking now and then at the sound of insects rising in the grass. Children play in the open spaces between houses. Their laughter is light, never piercing. A game of stones, a race around water jars. One girl wears a necklace made of dried beans strung on thread. She clutches it like treasure, even as she runs. A boy pretends to chase her, then falls laughing into the dust. No one tells them to quiet down. Not yet. There's still time. At the edge of the village, the fields glow amber in the lowering sun. Ducks return from the water, waddling in loose, clumsy lines. A farmer leans against a tree, chewing a piece of dried fig as he watches his oxen settle in for the night. He hums a tune with no words. It carries just far enough to be heard, and then disappears. As dusk deepens, torches are lit in a few homes, their flames flickering against the walls. In most places, though, there is no firelight, just the fading sun, just the glow of the horizon. The sky turns soft lavender, then dusty rose, then a deepening blue that seems to swallow everything. Dinner is quiet. People sit on woven mats, sharing food in small bowls. They eat slowly, without talk, letting the taste settle between them. Afterward, hands are rinsed, pots are cleaned, and voices begin to lower. The children grow quieter too. One by one they are called in. Not sternly, just softly, gently. A name spoken from a doorway. A hand stretched out into the dark. A child's footsteps returning to the warmth of home. On the rooftops, mats are laid out beneath the stars. The air is cooler now. The heat has lifted. The breeze is gentle again. Families lie side by side, listening to the sounds of night returning, the chirp of crickets, the whisper of reeds, the creak of timber cooling from the day. Someone tells a story, not a grand tale, but a quiet one, about a lost sandal, a clever cat, a dream remembered from last week. The story is slow, unhurried, full of pauses and laughter. It ends with a sigh, then silence. Above them, the first stars appear, and below, the village breathes as one. Soft, even, ready for sleep. Night has fully arrived. The sun is long gone now, tucked beneath the western horizon. What remains is the hush, that still, ancient quiet that settles over the land like a heavy, comforting blanket. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full. Full of rest, full of breath, full of time. The village is nearly dark. Here and there, small oil lamps flicker inside homes, their yellow light glowing through doorways and cracks in walls. But outside, the night is moonlit, cool. The air smells faintly of dust, river water, and the last trace of smoke from cooking fires long since put out. Most of the homes are quiet. Conversations have ended. Doors have been closed. And yet, the village is not asleep all at once. Sleep, here, arrives slowly, softly, like a ripple in the Nile. On a rooftop, a family lies side by side on woven mats, their heads resting on folded blankets or hands. Above them, the sky stretches wide and black and full of stars, more stars than most will ever see in their lifetime. The kind of stars that feel close enough to touch. They do not name them all. Some are known, others imagined, but all of them shine. A boy stares upward, eyes wide. He asks about the sun, where it goes, how it comes back. His mother answers quietly, tracing a slow arc in the sky with her finger. Her voice is low, sleepy, full of warmth. The boy nods, then closes his eyes. A few homes over, an older couple lies side by side, not speaking. They've done this for decades. Watched the sky, listened to the wind, felt the earth beneath them. Their silence is not emptiness. It is shared understanding, a language of stillness. Beyond the village, the Nile reflects the moonlight. The river is dark, but not hidden. It gleams in long silver bands, winding gently through the land. A few boats drift along its edge, tied to posts, creaking softly as they rock. Reeds sway gently, stirred by the faintest breeze. A crocodile lies motionless near the bank, half in water, half in shadow. It does not move. It does not need to. This land belongs to it too, as it has for thousands of years. A frog calls out from the reeds, then another. Their voices echo across the surface of the water, as if calling goodnight to each other. Or maybe to the stars. Back in the village, dreams have begun to arrive. They come quietly, tucked into the folds of the night. Dreams of harvests, of long-lost relatives, of gods walking softly through fields of barley. No one speaks of them. But in the morning, some will linger. A scribe dreams of symbols he hasn't yet written. A farmer dreams of the sky opening like a pomegranate. A child dreams of flying, not like a bird, but like dust in the wind. The torches have gone out now. Only starlight and silence remain. The wind has stilled. Even the insects have grown quiet. Only breath, slow and steady, rises from the rooftops. Somewhere, a mother hums, a sound barely more than a whisper. She hums not for anyone to hear, but because it feels right, because it's how the day should end. The song fades, the village sleeps, and above it all the stars continue to shine, calm, steady, eternal. Just like the Nile, just like the land, just like the people who rest here beneath the open sky.